Health IQ Podcast, the truth about drugs and the numbers. Substance misuse is a growing concern in Quay County. Join us as we explore the issue and discuss prevention strategies.
Welcome to this episode of Health IQ. Today, we will be talking about substance misuse here in Quay County. Joining me at the table today is Rachelle Moon. She is a contractor with the Quay County Health Council working on substance misuse prevention. Our crew today is Joyce Runyon and Bobby Hockaday, and I am Brenda Bishop. Recently, you had to compile some information to answer some questions to the media about a report they had seen about New Mexico, and they wanted to narrow it down to Quay County. So I thought it would be interesting to bring some of that information here to the group so that they would know what substance misuse looks like in our county. So I'll just turn it over to you to start.
It was real interesting to get a call. We got the call from Amarillo News 7 and asking us what Quay County was doing about the fact that New Mexico had been ranked number 1 for substance misuse in the U.S. by a website called Wallet Hub. So we had to go look that up because we thought, what is this? And what it looks like they did is they had like a set of questions and they looked through those and just found some data and they pieced it all together, and that's what they came up with. So to speak to the accuracy of, is New Mexico number 1? It's hard to say whether we really are or not, but I don't think that's our concern in our county, is whether our state is number 1 or not. We just want to look at what our issues are here, because anywhere you go, you're going to have issues of substance use. And we've seen an increase in that in a lot of ways ever since the pandemic, which seem like we blame a lot on pandemic. Mm-hmm. But, just the way things are going in the world, and people do a lot of self-medicating with different things. One of the top ones here in Quay County is alcohol use. And it's really a normal thing for people to drink an excess of alcohol. It's not that unusual. So we just started re-looking at some of our numbers and thinking about those things. So,
well, and alcohol nationwide, it went up the last few years as well.
Which makes sense, as I said, don't want to blame everything on the pandemic, but when you're sitting at home and maybe you were out of work for a while and you're bored, and you can see where some of that comes into play. So
before we go deep into the data, you want to talk about what excessive alcohol use looks like, how many drinks, or what a drink is?
I think we have some of that specific stuff on our website, but we always say for men it's more than 7 drinks in a week, and for women it's more than 5 drinks in a week.
In a week?
Uh-huh.
And a drink equals an ounce of liquor,
mm-hmm.
or 1 can of beer,
right?
Or what was it? How many ounces of wine?
I think it's 6 ounces.
6 ounces of wine.
Yeah.
So
it's not much.
Not much.
And so a lot of people think, well, I'll just go home and I'll kick back and drink 2 or 3 beers in an evening, and that's considered, if you do that, say on your days that you're working, that's an excess. So those are sometimes things that are hard for people to want to talk about or think about. And the concern is really not how much you're binging or how, that is a concern. While that is a concern, it's more the bigger concern with alcohol specifically is long-term use. So if you start drinking when you're younger, say under the age of 20, and you're going to drink into your 50s and 60s and 70s, there's a high likelihood that your death will be a result of something alcohol related, whether that be a chronic disease like diabetes, or it's kidney disease, liver disease. Mm-hmm. And of course there are injuries that can result from drinking and driving specifically, or other, even household injuries like you fell down.
Yes.
Literally. Because you were drinking in excess. So that's the concern, is more the long-term consequences that we're really trying to talk to people about. So the longer, especially young people, can wait to start experimenting with those things or consuming those things, the better their health's going to be when they get older.
And I remember when we first started this work, that's what some of the physicians told us, is this long-term alcohol use was the thing they were seeing the most with the chronic diseases caused by that.
Yeah. So just to give you a couple of numbers, in Quay County specifically, our alcohol-related death rates, so it's all the things we just talked about, is about 87%, and New Mexico rate is about 72%. So we're a good 10 points plus more than the state rate. And we already know New Mexico ranks higher in alcohol long-term use death rates than a lot of other states.
Yes.
So that's just something to be aware of and be educated on. So that's one of the things that I talk to the news about a little bit. So it's one of our big issues when it comes to substance use
Yes.
in the county.
So when people think of substance use, they often don't think of cigarettes or alcohol. They think of more hardcore things like opioids and meth and things like that. Did you have any of that information to share with them?
So talking about, things along those lines. So we're going to talk about nicotine, for example, or tobacco. Our tobacco use rates are pretty high here. And then we know our nicotine rates are pretty high. And we've also learned through some quantitative and qualitative data, which quantitative means we got numbers. So somebody took a survey and we got numbers. And qualitative is we had a conversation with somebody. We had a conversation with a focus group, which we did actually have a conversation with a focus group here at the college with some people that were, young adults, and talking also to teachers and to kids and to schools. And we've learned that vaping is really popular and it's really common here in the county. It's one of the things we really need to start looking at, because vaping, as high as our alcohol numbers are, we're finding out that vaping is more common than alcohol use. So that was one good news I wanted to tell you, is our kids in 9th to 12th grades actually showed a decrease in alcohol consumption before the age of 13, which is really great. That's really good news. That means those kids are postponing that, but we're seeing a vaping issue. And so we've also heard reports from some school staff that vaping is common and kids take a vape to school. Some people may not even recognize what it is. It looks like a common item, like a pen or a highlighter or something, or a USB cartridge for your computer, but it's really a vape. And then they're sharing them with each other. Now, I know, and when I was a kid, we shared suckers, but it's just gross. Why? Why did we do that? And why are they doing that?
And there's so many other things in the vape solutions.
Yes.
Other than just whatever the sweet flavor is.
Right.
And the water vapor, which itself, the water vapor can cause all kinds of health issues.
Yeah, there's a lot of lung things that can be happening from whatever could be in those vapes, and you really don't always know what's in a cartridge, or they call them a cart. But even the amount of nicotine in one vape is like a pack of cigarettes in one vape, or even more, depending on where they're getting those products.
So the nicotine is getting...
Yeah, nicotine
addiction is getting higher in those kids.
And again, there's that self-medication piece. Nicotine does give you a feeling of euphoria. And so if you're stressed out or you're feeling anxious or something, that's probably a reason why that would be happening possibly.
So another thing you mentioned that I thought we should touch base on is the data that was for kids who started drinking under the age of 13. And so why is 13 an important number? Or do you know that?
Well, I could probably take a stab at why that's important, but I think, partly why they look at 13 specifically is probably because that's when you become a teen. So it's a lot more common probably for that to be considered kind of a passage of you go from being what they consider a child to being a teenager is often when kids start experimenting with things, which is why I would guess they would look at that specifically.
Well, and they're in that middle school age, and where we get some of this data is from the Youth Resiliency Survey, and they
Right.
also start with, in middle school. But I think I remember reading a long time ago that if children start drinking alcohol before age 13, they're more likely to continue drinking throughout their life.
Yeah.
And the longer you can put it off, the better.
That's just becomes a normal thing in your life that you do. But also, really looking too at that age is an important developmental milestones happen between those ages of like 13, you're hitting puberty. And so your brain and your body are in very crucial developmental stages. Not that you're not before that, you are also, but there's just a lot of critical things that happen, and you have a little more freedom, you're not maybe as connected to your parents as you were when you were 5th or 6th grade,
And you become more friends, and then of course a lot of
peer
kids
pressure.
get their smartphones around that age.
And a lot of adults, that's where kids have gotten a lot of this, is from the adults in their lives that are providing that to them, or near peers that are just, they're just closer to that 21, or maybe they are 21. So that's where they say it's coming from. So interesting stuff. But yeah, I was encouraged to see that the first drink before age 13 in Quay County has actually dropped to 12% in 2021, and in 2019 it was 21%. So we've dropped a lot in that. So that's good news that maybe kids are not having access. Someone is putting a barrier in place, whether they are getting educated or maybe the parents are realizing that's a bad idea. So that was good news.
Well, if I remember right, a lot of times kids that age are getting alcohol from a relative or their own home.
Right. Yeah, they're not going and buying it at a store, having a fake ID. That's not happening in Quay County.
Yes.
But it's a near peer or an adult.
So let's dive a little bit more into this focus group and what those people said. They were young adults and taking classes here at our community college. And so that's an interesting perspective.
Yeah.
They had to be under a certain age to participate in this focus group.
Yeah.
So
according to some of the things they responded on, we learned that in their opinion, this is opinion, so quantitative data, they believe that the onset of alcohol use in Quay is around 15 to 16 years old, when people might first experiment with that. And so this group included like about 18 to 20-year-olds. That's about our age demographic that responded to this. And they felt like some of the reasons why that would happen here in Quay is there's a lack of things for kids their age to do here in the county. And so I think that's something, we really should consider and maybe look at. And I'm not sure the Health Council can address those issues, but maybe we can partner with somebody who can, or talk about that in the community.
I think that same issue happens for a lot of our high school students.
Yeah.
Not all of them, because some of them are involved in a lot of organizations, so they got more they can do, but there are definitely a large group that, and especially in the summer, have nothing.
Yeah. So they felt like also that this situation with people 15 and 16 being able to access alcohol was due to like a self-feeding cycle. So someone 21 got you some alcohol, got you a case of beer or whatever it is. And then you do that for your peers when you turn 21.
Oh,
so it's kind of like a rolls down the hill, kind of thing. So that might be something
Makes you cool.
It makes you cool. And also that there's some parents that supply those things, which I'm not surprised about. There's probably a lot of parents that feel like their kids would be safer at home having these things. But, what they're not thinking about is their child's long-term future. And that's something to think about,
And the message that's being given to that child.
Yeah. And, it's not that issue of alcohol itself. It's just more, like, again, the amount and the long-term use coupled together. That's where people often get in trouble.
And then over the years, we have had some actual deaths in our county of young people due to partying and that kind of thing.
Yeah.
As I'm sure everywhere else they have had that.
Yeah. But some good news is there are some adults in the community, according to this group, that get on to them about this. So there's coaches and people at our different schools that are, they don't want their athletes and their students drinking. And so they get on to them, they talk to them about it. They discourage that behavior because they know it's going to impact their athletic ability or their ability to participate on certain kinds of teams.
Right.
And so that was good news. I thought, oh, that's good. We've got some adults that don't want them drinking at all. They tell them, don't be doing that stuff. So,
and that sort of fits in with some of that resiliency things that, of the components that we need to be resilient kids.
Yeah, so I was going to bring that up. So the New Mexico Youth Risk and Resiliency Survey, the kids take this survey in the school from grades, they have a middle school one and then a high school one. It's 2 separate surveys, but they're very similar, but they take them every other school year in school, but they help to characterize the adolescent health behaviors as well as resiliency, like you're talking about, or protective factors. So I was going to talk about that for just a minute. What is resiliency? So resiliency is the ability to cope and recover from setbacks. And so it's like remaining calm when something big happens or something like a disaster happens. And having really strong coping skills. So what we've been working on in the county and with this committee on the Health Council is trying to get with youth that already exist in groups and helping them build some of these resiliency skills so that they'll know how to cope with their problems and not always be turning to a substance or to something that might not be good for them. So it's helping them find ways to manage difficult situations.
And as we speak with some of our mental health care providers, they're saying coping skills are lacking in our youth and often some adults as well.
Right.
And so resiliency skills also go hand in hand with just being able to cope.
Right, which don't you think these coping skills are super important because I've been through hard things. Have you been through hard things?
Yes.
So anyone who's anyone who's alive has probably been through hard things. And it's that ability, to get through those things and do it in a healthy way that you can get to the other side and think, wow, look at me, I got through that.
And don't get bogged down in it, but actually think of a way to get through it or, a process or whatever it takes for you to get through whatever the situation is.
Yeah.
So I know that there are some categories of resiliency skills. Do you remember those off the top of your head? Because this is something we really didn't talking about, but...
Okay. So here's some different things that we could really talk about what resiliency is, but it's bouncing back. That's one of the things. Being positive. So, and that doesn't mean you have to be positive every moment of every day for all of your life. That just means when things don't seem to be going well, because they're not going to go well. Well, I was going to say every day, but not all day long. You're going to have things that go wrong, but being positive, so having a positive attitude, believing in yourself and your goals, not being afraid to make mistakes. I think that's a really big deal. Just knowing you might not succeed at this, but we're going to try. We're going to try. Being able to handle tricky situations, and whether that's at school or at home, or being able or trying your best, even if you don't think you might, even if thinking I might not succeed at this, or I might not win and be first place, at the track meet, but I'm going to try my best, even if the outcome might not be exactly what I wanted. And then never giving up, even when things are really tough. So those are some things, kind of categories of resiliency.
Yeah. So I remember years ago when and this really dates me, probably 20 years ago when they first brought the YRS here to Quay County, maybe longer than that. One of the questions was about having a person in your life that you can go to, that you can talk to, an adult, not just a friend. And so when you were talking about the young adults saying that having a coach or somebody that was, telling them to stay off of drugs and
Right.
that adult, having another adult in your life is important.
Yes, it is very
For building
crucial. And a
resiliency.
friend just reminded me of this. It only takes one caring adult to really change a child's life. So you think, wow, just one caring adult. And that does not have to necessarily be a parent, although that's wonderful when it is, but a teacher, a coach, someone, in the faith community, someone in an organization like 4-H or other organizations like Boy Scouts and Girl Scouts or anything like
Yes.
that. But one caring adult can change a child's life. So, as you guys are watching this, I want you to think of who was that caring adult in my life that made that difference. And
I can remember when I first started working with 4-Hers that there were a couple of families, or couples, I should say, who didn't have kids, but they would adopt other kids that maybe their parents were both working, and they would adopt them and get them to all the 4-H stuff. And our other families would pick up others and, and become that support network for those people or for those kids. And that was really pretty cool to watch.
And it's cool to watch those kids then, succeed and do things in their life that they wanted to do and have a happy life. So
And some even had kids. They just brought some more along with them.
they brought extras. They took care of extras. Some people have those gifts,
Yes.
So that's a good thing.
So thinking about all these things brought me to our food for thought. And so the one I chose is, do not judge me by my success. Judge me by how many times I fell down and got back up again. And that was Nelson Mandela. And some of the things you said here, especially at the end, really made me think about that and how sometimes we're not the best one, or we tripped on that track meet, or we missed the important catch, but we can't dwell on that and keep going. Or I can give you my best one. I was doing a recipe, and I was using a bag to shake breadcrumbs onto liver strips and for a competition. And I said, I usually do this in a pan, or a bowl, but today I'm using a bag to be less messy. And I dropped the bag and sprayed wet liver strips all over the judges.
Oh no.
So, what do? You scoop up what you can and you keep going because it's the middle of and you're being filmed and everything else. And needless to say, I didn't win, but I learned that I could keep going through that. So we all have those things that happen. And
Yes, we do.
I was probably in high school when I did that. And so I still remember it. It's still I can, if I flub up, I can still keep going.
Yeah. And that's such an important skill that you were able to recover, because that would have been terrible.
Oh, yes.
I think a lot of people, I might have wanted to run away.
Oh, me too.
Find the restroom and hide.
I didn't want to be giving that speech anyway, or talking in front of public, because I'm pretty shy.
Yeah, it's those getting up skills that are so critical and important for life. And how many times can you get up after you've been knocked down?
Yeah.
I think if we can teach kids that they can get up and keep going, that
tomorrow will be better.
Yeah, tomorrow's going to be a different day. And And I'll tell you, I had one that came to my mind. I was in a literal race running, and it was a trail race, and I tripped and I fell. I like skidded on some rocks, and I fell and I hit my knees really hard. And I laid there a second, and some people were just running by me. They're like, "Are you okay?" Well, yes, I am. So I got up and I dusted myself off and I finished the race. And you know, I still got the same medal everybody else got at the end.
Yeah.
So that's literal. But yeah, if we can teach kids some skills that they're going to be okay, you'll be all right. Just finish your race as best as you can.
Yes. So I don't know that I can add to any of that. That was excellent. So we'd like to thank you all for joining us today. Please come back for our next episode of Health IQ as we look at another important topic for our families.
Special thanks to our guest contributor for this episode, Rachelle Moon, Partnership Addressing Substance Struggles Coordinator for Quay County Health Council. Our host was Brenda Bishop, Quay County Health Council Coordinator. The Health IQ crew. Director is Robert F. Hockaday. Producers video audio are Robert F. Hockaday and Joyce Runyon. Second AC was Joyce Runyon. Editors are Joyce Runyon and Robert F. Hockaday. Select music provided by David Morris. Funding for Health IQ provided by a New Mexico Better Together grant. Brought to you by the Quay County Health Council. Follow us on YouTube, Facebook, and Instagram at Quay County Health. If you have any content ideas, reach out to us by email healthhiqpodcast@gmail.com. More info about this topic and more available on our Health IQ blog, qchealthhcouncil.org.
This podcast was created solely for educational and entertainment purposes. It is not intended as a substitute for advice from a healthcare or mental health professional.